Where can I find myself a Carney Lansford? I need Carney Lansford.
You want me to bring him on? He's here.
I'd love to have Carney Lansford on. Carney, it's Chris Townsend with the A's. How are you?
I'm good, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
I got to think this is going to be a special day for you. I know we've talked about it in the past, but as a guy that grew up here in the Bay Area, a guy that grew up an A's fan, got a chance to play for the A's, you won a World Series with the A's. What is this going to mean to you going into the Oakland A's Hall of Fame?
Well, Chris, it's such an honor. I can't even begin words. There's no words for it. To be joining the guys that I idolized growing up. When I was in high school was when the A's were winning 3 straight World Series. So, to be joining guys like Joe Rudy, Reggie Jackson, Campy, Catfish, Sal, all those guys, it's just a tremendous honor.
Yeah, and you're going in with Gene Tennis.
Yeah, I know. I actually, when I was in high school, I was listening to the World Series, my little transistor radio, and that's the year that Gino had all those home runs in the World Series. So be going in with him, and then of course I love Jason Giambi. So, and my man Roy Steele. What can I say? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be very special, and the thing that most players will never get the opportunity to play in the area they grew up. They just don't get that opportunity. When you look back now, how special was that?
It was awesome because, again, I idolized the A's growing up. That was my team. And I can't tell you how many times I went to the Coliseum to watch them play. And to get the opportunity to play on that field, basically I felt like I was playing at home. So, I was born in San Jose, raised in Santa Clara. So 30 minutes away was the Coliseum. So I got to play there for 10 years. It was awesome.
I think about the teams that you played on, and we've gone over them, especially during the COVID years. We played a lot of the X Games. I mean, when you look back at how great those teams were, you won a World Series, 3 straight World Series appearances, but just talk about how lucky you were to play on a team like that, led by one of the great managers of all time, Tony La Russa.
Yeah, and you've got to give Sandy Alderson a lot of credit and Wally Haas for putting together those teams. Once Tony came over is when we really started making moves to acquire great players. Bobby Welch, Rick Honeycutt, Dave Henderson came over, Dave Parker they signed. So, they just really put together a great team for a number of years.
When did you know, like when you were looking around and when did you realize, oh, we got something special?
Actually, it was the first day of spring training in 1988. Tony had just had his first meeting with us in the locker room, and as we were walking out of the locker room onto the field, I remember looking at the guys coming out, and immediately I said, wow, this year we actually have a really good chance to win this thing. So it was 88 spring training.
And I think about your guys' run. You guys are like rock stars. There's good teams obviously are very, very popular, but when you guys went on the road, it was like one of those deals where you just couldn't walk through the lobby of the hotel like most teams. Just talk about what you had stars on your team. You had a bunch of stars. What was that like being on a star-studded ball club like you guys had?
It was awesome. When we played away games, there would be more green jackets and green hats in the stands at the visiting park than there was their own guys, their own colors. So it was great. It was Ricky, Ed, Stu, all those guys, Jose, Mark, Terry Steinbach. We just had a great team, and it was a lot of fun. We did feel like rock stars, actually, for about 3 or 4 years there.
And you guys beat the you-know-what out of people. I've done a lot of TV with Stu lately, and Stu and I chat and watch the games, and we've just talked about how intimidating you guys were. Like, you walked out on the field and you had games won already.
Yeah, Tony used to talk to us about, breaking it down, one series at a time, actually. He said, our goal should be to try to win every series that we play. So that's usually 2 out of 3 games. But then if you win the first 2, then you got to get greedy and try to sweep. So, yeah, we had great talent. We knew it. And for me, we had great pitching, great starting pitching, a great bullpen. Rick Honeycutt, the greatest closer I can think of, Dennis Eckersley, had a great bench. So we just had a team with no weakness on it. So even the days when Tony would give some veterans a rest, the guys that you ran out there, the Stan Javieres and those guys, we weren't missing a beat with any of those guys out there, so it was awesome.
You know, the one thing when you're such a good hitter, people just focus on that and they forget about your defense. And I know that's always tough because you pride yourself so much on playing defense, and your guys' teams prided themselves on being great defensively. Like, everybody always wants to talk about your hitting. Do you ever go, hey, listen, I bring the leather to the yard every day too?
Yeah, Chris, for me, really, all honesty, the offense is nice. It's great. But I would rather, when I played, make a great play to save a ball game than to get 3 hits and lose. For me, it was just about winning. And if I could help my pitcher out by making a great play, that meant a lot to me. When I go into the clubhouse after the game, look in the mirror, I felt really good about myself if I played a great defensive game. So, yeah, defense was my pride, actually.
But let's be honest, you could flat out swing it.
Well, I did okay. I'm very proud of that, and a lot of guys had a lot to do with that, helping me out or whatever. Walt Riniak, when I went to Boston, he's the guy that really taught me how to use the whole field and made me a much better hitter, a much better contact hitter. So I got to give Walt Riniak a lot of credit there. So, yeah, but offense is fun. It's great being on base. My favorite thing about playing the game was running the bases. And you can't run the bases unless you get on. So, yeah, hitting is great. Defense was more important to me, though.
We've seen it with Zach Geloff lately, a young second baseman who's just come up. His ability to go the other way as a right-handed hitter, to have power, to hit the ball out to right center, hit the ball off the wall, extra base hits, be able to go foul pole to foul pole. So many hitters today, and of course you're a hitting coach. You know exactly these kids are all coming up. They're all trying to pull it and hit the ball of the ballpark. You had a great ability that, yeah, you could do that, but you also had the great ability to go to the right side. Talk about what your approach was like. That we don't see a lot of that in today's baseball.
Well, Chris, when I got to the A's, I hit behind Ricky most of the time. So you have the greatest base stealer in the history of the game. And so a lot of times, he's on second base with nobody out. So my job was to get him over to third or get him in by hitting the ball the opposite way. So when I first got to Boston, Joe Rudy got me in touch with Walt Riniak in spring training. And he's really the guy that taught me how to stay back and use the whole field. When I was in Anaheim with the Angels, my first 3 years, I was pretty much just see ball, hit ball. I never really thought about, trying to purposely hit the ball hard to the middle the other way. If I hit it the other way, it was probably an accident most of the time. So, I started working with him, and it just became part of my routine every day to do soft toss and work on hitting the ball the other way, and then pull some balls, but most of the balls I hit were the other way. So it made it tougher to pitch to me, I think, because you don't jump out. These guys that just strictly pull the ball, I think they're pretty easy to pitch to most of the time. They just jump out there and they chase a lot of balls in the dirt because they're so committed to trying to pull the ball that they don't stay back and try to use the whole field and hit the ball the other way. So, it just helped me too, Chris, with my 2-strike approach. Really, the first 3 years of my career, I didn't really have a 2-strike approach. But once I got to Boston and my entire time with the A's, I really thought about, make sure with 2 strikes that you're swinging at it is a strike or close to a strike. So just the discipline, I think, was more important than anything.
We talk so much about managers. We talk so much now about front office guys. There's a bunch of legendary coaches out there that really don't get their due. And you mentioned Walt Riniak, and you think about what he did for you. You think about what he did for George Brett. You think about what he did for some of these great players. He should be talked about more. And I think some of the great pitching, Dave Duncan, for instance, as a pitching coach. But when you talk about Riniak as a hitting coach, just talk about the greatness of a man that really changed so many of your guys' lives.
He changed a lot of lives. And one guy you left out there was who left Boston the year before, or the year that I got there, Carlton Fisk, great hitter. And he worked with Dewey Evans. He worked with Walt Riniak. And by the way, Walt Riniak was a disciple of Charlie Lau. That's how he learned. That's how he learned how to teach guys how to hit. So yeah, it's important to have a guy. He wasn't even our hitting coach when I was in Boston. And they should get way more credit than they actually get. But that's most of the time that's what happens when you're a coach. So you don't get a lot of credit.
And also on hitting behind Ricky Henderson, how tough is it to be patient at bat after at bat You know he's going to be going. There have to be a ton of times you took pitches that you would have loved to swing at that you couldn't, and that's truly being a team guy in your lineup.
You know, when I first got to the A's, hitting behind Ricky was really difficult for me because I'm a very aggressive hitter. I don't like trying to hit with 2 strikes all the time and then still try to be productive. But we didn't really communicate, Ricky and I, when I first got there. Then he went to New York for a year or two, and he came back. And the first thing I did was sit down with Ricky and said, hey, you know, we just communicated. I said, you know, Rick, there's some pitchers out there that I can give 2 strikes to, and I still feel pretty confident I can put the ball in play with authority. But there's some guys out there that I need 3 swings. I'm just being honest with you. These are major league pitchers, you know. And I said, so let me ask something. What's the chance when you're on first base and you know that you're going to go that next pitch? Is there any way you can just give me some little sign so that I know to take the pitch? And he honestly, what he said is, I'll tell you what, when I'm on first base, if you see me pick my pants on the right-hand side, then I'm going to go that pitch. And it made it so much better because he did every time. Because before that, you know, there's sometimes that he would deke like he was going, you take a pitch, and he doesn't go, and that was a good pitch to hit. But he was really good. He was great with me because he said, those guys that you really struggle with, don't worry about taking pitches with them. I'll get them myself. And he always did. So just the communication hitting behind a guy like a Ricky Henderson was huge.
You know, I think about guys, you know, it's been a while since you've played, so you may think that the fan base forgets about you, and then all of a sudden you go to fantasy camp and you realize they haven't forgotten you at all and what you mean to this fan base. What is that like when you go back and you put the uniform on and you're in Arizona and all those fans start telling you about what they saw you do and how much they loved you as a player and they love those teams that won? What has that been like, kind of revigorating that relationship with the fan base?
You know, it's great to be there with the fans, and they're awesome. I have a great time doing it. I've done it a half a dozen times, and I'll be doing it again this next January. But, you know, one of the best things for me is seeing my former teammates and guys that played before me with the A's that come in. So, you know, Terry Steinbach comes out from Minnesota. Greg Cataray's there pretty much every year. Shooty does a great job of hosting the fantasy camp. He's awesome. And so we have a blast, you know, and just seeing the fans out there having fun, enjoying it, and telling the different little stories is great.
Please take down Dallas Braden. We're all tired of hearing about Dallas Braden and him coaching. This is one of you guys got to take him down this year.
You know, I coached with Terry Steinbach last year, and we had every game won until not the championship game, but the winner of the second to last game was going to go to the championship. And we had won every game, and then we got to the end of the game, and our pitcher couldn't throw strikes. And, you know, when the guys are facing women, they get a little nervous because they can't throw, you know, as hard as they can because you don't want to embarrass the ladies up there. So you want them to at least try to hit the ball, and then they try so hard that they can't throw a strike. So we're walking the bases loaded, we'll walk a guy in, and pretty soon one of our guys, at the end of the game, the last inning, one of our guys hits a ball deep to right field where this lady was playing out there, and you think she's got to go back to, there's no chance, we're going to win this game right here. And she makes the play of her life and catches the ball on the end of her glove. And our guy that we had on second base would have been the go-ahead run. He goes around third base, and he tags at second, going around third base, and Terry's at third base. He's like, stop. The guy wants to be the hero, and he ran straight through. Oh. And he was out by half the distance at home plate. And so we would have been in the championship game had that not happened. But, you know, Dallas, once again, he goes in there and he wins. So, you know, but I got to tell you, you know, I didn't even know Dallas until a couple of years ago, and the guy's hilarious. I love him. Between him and Shooty hosting that thing, all you do is laugh the entire time.
Yeah, it's such a great event. We felt so lucky to be there this year, and we can't wait to bring our cameras down again and get all the action here on A's Cast and A's Cast Live for all the fans. Is your speech ready? Do you have it ready to rock?
It is. Oh, yeah. I only get 2 minutes. and I have a number of people I have to thank for this and that. So my time will be up.
Well, it is always an honor to have you on the program. Congratulations. You know, when I was growing up, you were definitely one of the premier hitters in the game. Loved watching you play, and it's always been great having you on the show. Congratulations, and I can't wait to see you on Sunday.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to this next weekend.
Take care. You have fun.
Okay. See you later.
Carney Lansford, new A's Hall of Famer. That is awesome.